everybody, my name's Eric Hopkins, and this is my good buddy Brendan, and welcome to our YouTube channel. If you're finding us for the very first time, please click that like and subscribe button, and don't forget to hit that notification bell so you get all the notifications about when we put up new content right here on this channel. And this is our AEW All Out review. We're also going to quickly review Rampage from this week because it kind of set up into that pay-per-view, but we want to discuss these shows in detail here. So let's get started without any further ado. We're going to skip Smackdown tonight. We're going to put it on this next week's Wrestling Recap show that airs on Thursday morning, so check that out. So for all the WWE news that happened this week, but we're going to just focus on AEW for tonight. The show started off on Rampage with Malachi Black coming out. He defeated Lee Johnson here, just kind of furthering that story with Malachi Black and the Nightmare Factory, so to speak here. Nightmare Family. I guess the factory is QT's, isn't it? So the Nightmare Family here. But this basically kind of come down. I mean, and Lee Johnson got some offense in here, so it wasn't a total squash. That's a good thing. Black grabbed a chair and looked like he was about to use it, though, when he then dropped it and offered a free shot for Johnson to use it as a weapon. Johnson stood up wobbly with the chair in hand, but was immediately struck with a spinning heel kick or the Black Mass to finish this off here. After the match, Dustin Rhodes ran out and grabbed the chair to chase off Black. I even mentioned, I believe last week on the channel, that I think that was a natural progression. Dustin Rhodes against Malachi Black, and maybe that does lead into another Cody match, possibly. Possibly. I know you're kind of Cody'd out, I think, at this point.
Because what happened? Does Cody beat him? Or does he
I don't think so. I think Malachi wins again, and again, or at least I think. Cody's not going to beat Malachi. I don't know. That's the thing. We'll have to wait and see. I just don't think. Cody did the job once. I mean, you could set up a thing, but you'd have to do it in a way to where you don't bury Malachi right away either. But again, they teased that thing with Cody with the retirement and the dropping of the boot. He never got the second boot off, or at least not on camera. He didn't get the second boot off. So I don't know exactly where they're taking it. But that's a good thing. I guess you don't always know. But I would assume it eventually leads to that, and then Malachi wins again, running roughshod through the entire family. But we'll see.
Then you're burying the whole family.
Well, and they're there right. They're kind of like the QT Marshall Factory. They're kind of there, I think, right now to build up new talent. I mean, I think that's kind of their role.
Outside of Cody, that far because you didn't need to build a Big Show.
Well, true, but that match was placed in a certain spot on the show for a reason, but we'll get into that here in a minute. But yeah, I think all things considered, that went as good as it could have gone. But absolutely, yeah, I mean, I don't know exactly for sure, but yeah, I just think for right now, definitely Dustin Rhodes was the right move. I think the progression, where they're going with it, I don't know. We'll have to wait and see. After the commercial break, though, Dustin was backstage with Mark Henry. Dustin was asked how he was feeling. He said there's nothing Black could do to him. He hasn't already been through. That's probably true. They will face off next Friday on Rampage, which is going to be already a big show with the Pac Andrade match being moved from All Out to that show due to travel issues with Pac, which they tried. Which they tried to play into the Andrade storyline a little bit All Out, which we'll get into here in a minute. But yeah, so Dustin versus Malachi next Friday on Rampage. We had a Miro and Eddie Kingston promo. This was great hype for the match that really needed it, I felt, because the build to the match was a little on the lackluster side so far. They only had a few times to actually build it. In the center of the ring, Miro said that while Eddie Kingston calls himself the Mad King, the only king Miro recognizes is mad at Kingston. Kingston has all these God-given talents, but he ended up taking a charity contract to AEW. In a life without a struggle, you become soft, and Kingston has become comfortable, nothing more than a bat boy for Jon Moxley. So a good promo by Miro here, no doubt about that. Kingston came out. He said Miro's God isn't real to him, but if he was, he sent Kingston out here to punish him, as Miro's a sinner. Every move Kingston hits is Miro's weakness. So he's kind of playing off the fact that he's going to, apply these DDTs to him because his neck is kind of been his Achilles heel a little bit. Miro dared Kingston to enter the ring. Kingston said, "Redeem these nuts." If you call yourself the Redeemer, redeem these nuts, which quickly became a T-shirt that is now available on AEWshop.com. Overnight. He rushed the ring, but Miro rolled outside. Kingston pursued him, but Miro suckered him in and smacked him with the belt. Kingston got the better of Miro, though, in the ring with a spinning back fist and a DDT to end the segment. So again, playing off the weakness of Miro with the DDTs that Fuego del Sol's been hitting and all of his opponents have been hitting, that's been laying out Miro. So I like the story that maybe his neck is his weak point. And of course, these rapid fire chops and stuff are in the same sort of area. So I like the story they were telling with that. So good build up to the match, and I thought the match was pretty decent too, as we'll get into here in a minute. We had a 2-on-1 handicap match. Chris Statlander defeated Jamie Hayter and Rebel on Rampage before their big show. Statlander clotheslined Hayter off the apron and got Rebel into the electric chair. This was great. Statlander got Rebel up in an electric chair position. She then caught Jamie Hayter in a crossbody. She's got Rebel in an electric chair. She's holding Jamie Hayter in a crossbody formation. The strength of Chris Statlander here as she's doing this. Not only that,
we'll talk about that.
Not only that, the balance she's got here. And then she drops both of them face first down onto the mat. That was an amazing spot. I ain't going to lie. Great balance, especially when you're holding somebody on your shoulders. I don't know if anybody's ever tried that, but that's not easy to do on its own, let alone catching somebody and then dropping both of them. So I thought that was impressive.
Don't be wrong. We've seen John Cena do it.
Well, yes, absolutely. John Cena's a freak of nature.
Guys like so
right. Yeah.
But you don't see many women do that outside of Nia Jax and Nyla Rose.
Mm-hmm.
But
and they're bigger women. Yeah.
A woman like Nia Jax's size to be able to do something like that.
Right.
With Chris Statlander, you don't, because you don't really.
She's got some great leg strength and core, for sure.
Man, did she do it?
Yeah, she did. I mean, she's definitely gotten herself in some great shape since her injury, and they rewarded her with a title match at All Out. And I thought for the most part she looked pretty decent. Definitely still got some work to do, as you know. All these women I think have got some work to do. Britt Baker's probably the one standout, but they're all getting better.
Britt Baker. Now there's a couple.
There were times that even Britt. It depends on who she works with sometimes too. Sometimes it goes well.
That's what I'm saying, but I mean, Thunder Rosa. We'll talk about that.
We'll get into the winner of the Women's Battle Royal here before too long, too. So we'll talk about that one. Most of this is just set up for the All Out show for sure. After the match, the Three Heels cornered Statlander, but Red Velvet ran out to make the save. So there's that. Had a Kojima Moxley press conference where they ended up brawling. I thought that was interesting. At first, it looked like Moxley was being very light on his punches a little bit on that brawl. But again,
oh man.
Yeah, exactly. Then they ran down the all-out lineup and things like that. Mark Henry interviewed Darby Allin, Sting, Daniel Garcia, and 2.0. Garcia said he wants to prevent the Allin versus Punk match from happening simply because he can. Darby Allin said he'd knock Garcia on his ass, and then he'd look Punk dead in his eyes. Definitely held to that promise. But 2.0, let's talk about them for just a quick second here. They were in NXT since maybe about 4 or 5 years, and NXT did nothing with them for the most part outside of making them podcasters. 3 weeks here in AEW, and they're in the ring with Punk, Allin, Sting, some of the main event hitters here in AEW, and they're already one of the more over tag teams in the company. Good work on AEW's part, in my opinion, taking these guys from total obscurity on NXT and putting them in the spotlight here. So good on them for that. So again, young tag team, new talent, pushing them a little bit. So I'm glad to see that. Then we had CM Punk made his entrance for the commentary position as Darby Allin then defeated Daniel Garcia here. Most of this was led to the what happened after the match here. Garcia caught Allin in a rear naked choke and hung him over the rope. Allin wrestled away, but Garcia reapplied it in the center of the ring. Allin carried Garcia like a backpack up the ropes and fell backwards to finally break the hold. This was kind of a little bit of a coffin drop, but he had him on his shoulders and dropped him onto that, so that was interesting. Allin then hit the Pepsi twist, which was one of CM Punk's moves. So again, kind of taunting Punk on the commentary position, which got Punk to reply, not bad. Allin turned an uppercut into a backslide for 2 before hitting a code red for a good near fall. Allin, there was a little bit of commentary, was discussing are all the moves named after Pepsi products. We had the code red, we had the Pepsi twist, but anyhow. Then Allin locked in on the Last Supper cradle for the 3 count here. That's when 2.0 immediately rushed the ring after the match and attacked Darby Allin. Sting dispatched Garcia, but then Punk walked out from the commentary desk to confront 2.0. While they exchanged words with Punk, and Punk was kind of backing him around the side of the ring, and Darby Allin then hit the tope suicida through the ropes, knocked out both these guys, so he kept his word about knocking them out. Then he went face-to-face, nose-to-nose with CM Punk as the show went off the air. I thought it was a good go-home segment to build up that match. So overall, good Rampage. Again, these shows go by so fast, it's just kind of like, wow. I kind of wish it would go to 2 hours, and maybe it will one day. But at the same time, a 1 hour show is not bad.
You get all your shit in.
Yeah, NXT at 1 hour on the network was good at the time, too. So nothing wrong with that. So we'll see what they do with that. But I just think with the roster, ever-expanding roster on AEW, as we'll get into here in just a minute, it could benefit them eventually to maybe expand Rampage. But we'll see how that goes. For now, it's a good place, though. All right, so let's get into AEW All Out here. And up front, I just want to say this to me, there's a lot of talk online. Is this obviously the best pay-per-view of the year? A lot of people even discussing, is this the best pay-per-view of all time? Thoughts?
That far?
You wouldn't go that far?
No.
I'm trying. I'm not gonna lie though.
Because you can say that, and then like we've seen NXTs to where it was like, oh no, this is about. You can't say that.
I'm having a hard time outside of maybe some takeovers and maybe WrestleMania 17, which is a big one for me and a lot of people. But I'm having a hard time finding. I'm not saying it is the best of all time, but top 10.
Yeah.
Yes.
Wholeheartedly.
Top 5. That's a little bit tougher. But it's in the conversation of an all-time best pay-per-view, no matter what company we're talking about here.
Yes.
So let's get into it, though. So I just wanted to put that out front. So if you've not seen All Out, it is available currently on pay-per-view on the Bleacher Report. I believe it's on the Fight app as well. Definitely go check it out if you're an AEW fan or if you're just a fan of pro wrestling in general. It is a great pay-per-view, basically top to bottom. I'm going to tell you right now up front as well, I'm going to have a very hard time. There's a few things I'm going to nitpick at, but they're just that. They're nitpicks. It's very hard to find something negative to say about this show, regardless of whether you're a fan of WWE, Impact, AEW, New Japan, whatever it is. This is just a good show altogether. So let's run through here. We first started off with the buy-in here. Because of the Pac Andrade match not being able to go on this show due to the travel issues with Pac, they ended up pushing the Casino Battle Royale with the women up to the main card. So they decided to add a new match to the buy-in here. That was the Jurassic Express, Jungle Boy and Luchasaurus, and the Best Friends with Orange Cassidy, Chuck Taylor, and Wheeler Yuta. And a 10-man tag over the Hardy family office with Matt Hardy, Mark Quinn, Isaiah Cassidy, a Private Party, and Jack Evans, and Angelico of the Hybrid 2.0 or the Hybrid 2, whatever they are. So, yeah, great. This was definitely a lot of fun to open up the match here. There's a lot. Again, this is going to be one of those matches that's going to be very hard to describe because it's just so much going on. But it's a typical AEW multi-man match. And it's definitely very spot heavy. A lot of that, too. People have their disagreements about whether or not that's a good thing or not. But it definitely was a lot of fun, and it got everybody off their asses to start this show. So that's all that really matters here. And, of course, you got your Orange Cassidy spots. You got your Jungle Boy spots with Luchasaurus and things like that. So, yeah, I mean, eventually let's see here. The Blade got involved, who was at ringside. He tried to distract Jungle Boy, but Marco Stunt came in and hopped on Luchasaurus' shoulders to take out the Blade with a dive to the floor. Jungle Boy then locked on the snare trap on Angelico for the win here. So the guy that they've been pushing as the star or the standout of the Jungle Express, Jungle Boy, gets the pinfall victory here. So I thought that was good booking. To kind of build that his status here, so that's good. But again, they're still trying to do this Orange Cassidy and Hardy family thing here after the match. After the match, the Butcher returned after a 7-month-long absence due to injury, so it's good to see him back. And he attacked Orange Cassidy with a powerbomb. At this point, the Jungle Express had already left. This is a little bit of a nitpick.
Yeah, this was weird.
Yeah, it was really weird. Like, they left, so Orange Cassidy and the Best Friends were still out there to celebrate with the crowd, which they kind of told Orange, I think, to kind of stall for some time a little bit here because they had a little time before the main show started. So the Hardy family office tried to set up Orange to cut his hair, which I understand why you had Jungle Express go to the back because you kind of set up the spot to do that with the tease of the hair. Maybe they're going to do like a hair versus hair with Hardy. Maybe you could do that. I don't know if they're going to do that or not. But it just felt like Jungle Express was in the back for a long period of time. Like, it just took him. Maybe, I don't know if there was a little timing there or they're just waiting for a certain spot in the thing to do it. But half the babyface locker room ended up coming out too with Varsity Blondes, the Dark Order, Top Flight come out, all that, and they ran off the Hardy family office here. But yeah, it just felt like, where did Jungle Express go? Like, they're just their buddies are getting destroyed here.
Like,
it was happened? It was a little weird, but outside of that, this is very good. But maybe you could have reduced that time they were in the back a little bit there. But I get why they're trying to do the haircut thing. But yeah, interesting though. We were kind of like, where'd your buddies go? But anyway,
dip out on them like that.
just gone. But after this, we had Dan Lambert flanked by the Man of the Year alongside Jorge Masvidal, Junior Dos Santos, and Andrei Arlovsky. I think that's how you pronounce his name.
Yep.
UFC fighters appeared in one of the press boxes and berated rated the fans. Dan Lambert's doing a great job with his promos here. No doubt about that. He's very good at that, no doubt.
He is serving his purpose right now.
Where this is exactly going, I don't know. They kind of tease like they might show up later tonight. Never happened, which is fine. Like I said, they don't have to do that on this show. But yeah, I think at some point they're going to be getting involved with somebody, especially with Ethan Page and Scorpio Sky, who they revealed Scorpio Sky just signed a long-term contract, so that's good to hear. Page said that he and Sky had the gift of gab and that they were extremely dangerous men. Sky said they have to take it to the next level with their friends, American Top Team. So I guess that's what they're calling themselves here with the UFC fighters. I don't know if the UFC fighters are going to do anything here at AEW or
if
not.
I'm not mistaken, America Top Team is a legit, not UFC fighting, but it's an
MMA team.
Yeah, because I believe, and we can look this up if I'm wrong, but I believe.
I don't know. I don't follow MMA as closely.
No. Bobby Lashley used to fight for America.
Oh, okay.
And so did Hager.
Jake Hager. Well, that may be true. I mean, maybe that's how they got all this involved here with Jake Hager's affiliation with AEW. I don't know the full backstory on all this. All I know is the promo from Dan Lambert's a big
Hold on, I may be wrong.
Okay. Well, before we get into, while you're looking at that, I thought
because back when when he was with TNA, when
Scorpio,
Bobby Lashley was
Bobby Lashley
with TNA.
Okay.
He came out with America Top Team.
Okay. Again, I'm not as brushed up on my TNA Impact history, but it's something I'd like to go back and revisit some of the TNA stuff back in the day with the 6-sided ring and things like that, which I admittedly missed a lot of. But I know they've had some good matches. I'd like to go back and check out some of those fuses stuff, but with AJ Styles in particular. Yeah, I mean, with that being said, though, I thought that Paige and Sky, when they started their promo here, it started off very corny.
I told you.
And you did. You mentioned
what
this.
What it is about that, but it drives me nuts.
Yeah, but I did think by midway through this promo, they got serious and it got better.
Yeah.
But it started off a little wonky. I'm like, okay, maybe you need to stick to the seriousness side of it. I mean, you don't always have to be serious in wrestling. I'm not saying that. But these two guys, I thought the corny stuff that Ethan Page was trying to drop here, we got the gift of gab. But, I'm like, all right, just.
And then, like, Scorpio would say, like, these little one-liners, and then he'd give it back to I can't remember his fucker.
Sky.
Yeah, Scorpio would have these little one-liners.
Oh, and then Ethan.
And then Ethan Page would say something else, and then Scorpio would say, and I was like, why do you do that? Like, it drives me nuts.
Yeah, I understand. But I think for the most part, they are good talkers. It's just they've got to pick and choose their spots when it comes to their promos a little bit here. And they're talented in the ring, too. I think Ethan's still a little young. Scorpio's a little bit more on the veteran side of things. But I don't know how long Ethan's been wrestling.
I don't know.
I just been watching his AEW career. But, again, they got a lot of talent, and I think that this gimmick with Dan Lambert's good. I'm interested to see what they do with any of these old MMA fighters. But we'll see if they do anything with those guys. But they may just be muscle and just kind of there when they can show up type of thing, having fun. Yeah, I'm definitely interested to see where this goes, and we'll see if they get themselves involved with maybe one of the top tier talent, maybe storylines here. We'll see what happens, but we'll see where they go. So this brings us to the main show of All Out that starts out here, and of course, the show opened up with Jim Ross joining the commentary for the main card with his Oklahoma Boomer Sooner theme music coming out here, and then of course we got the TNT Championship, Miro versus Eddie Kingston. In a 13.5-minute match. All these matches I thought were very well paced. None of them were like super short outside of maybe the Paul White QT Marshall match. So, but again, we'll get into why I thought that was a good length for it. Yeah, this was very well worked with a white hot crowd from the opening jump here. It exceeded my expectations until the finish. The finish was a little on the maybe could have been done a little better, but at the same time, it was a story they were telling. So I'm not going to destroy them for this here. It was basically the fact that the turnbuckle got ripped off in the match. It was inadvertent. Like I think Kingston was holding on to it, and he got pulled away by Miro. But the referee was so distracted with that buckle being exposed, which good on the referee for doing, though.
Supposed to be. It was part of the story.
Yeah, it was definitely part of the story, no doubt about it. But the referee was trying to put the turnbuckle back when Eddie Kingston gets a very close near fall. If the referee had not been distracted by this buckle and trying to get the pad back on, Eddie Kingston probably would have got the 3 count over Miro. So that's the story that they're telling with Eddie Kingston probably would have won this belt, and maybe they did a rematch. I don't know if that's where they're going. We'll see. But I thought it was very clever the way they did it to kind of not make Eddie look weak. So that was good.
But it was like the ref looked so stupid. And it's
Yeah, it does make the ref look a little more
because,
incompetent.
here's the thing: when do the refs normally pay attention like that? Like that's the part that drives me crazy.
Well, that is their job, though. So it's weird. It's a weird dynamic.
How often do they do it?
I agree, but at the same time, it's a weird dynamic. It's like, all right, we want the ref to do that. You know, we want him to pay attention to the surroundings of the ring. But at this point, it costs the babyface. Yeah.
And then now you randomly just do it. Like you choose this time to be like, you know what? I'm going to step my referee game up. And you're like, are you serious right now?
Yeah. Yeah. So Kingston made it a couple feet from the ropes and was eventually able to force a break on the game over after this all happened. Kingston hit the desperation DDT, but the official, okay, so this is where the official was putting the turnbuckle pad back on, leading to a great near fall. But again, this got the crowd, they turned
Not only that, but he stops him from throwing him into the turnbuckle.
Yeah, like, whoa, don't throw him in the turnbuckle, yeah. But this got nuclear heat on the referee here. The crowd was livid that the referee basically cost Eddie Kingston the match here. But again, that's a good story to get the crowd involved, but it kind of, it's disappointing for them for sure. But Kingston set up for the pile driver.
He can flip his shit on a referee.
Oh, now. Yeah. But Miro couldn't get up. He tried to send Miro into the exposed turnbuckle, but the official got in the way, as you mentioned. With the official's vision obscured, Miro low-blowed Kingston and hit the bicycle kick to win the match. So, yeah, I mean, I understand. I think for the story they're telling, it was good. But, yeah, I can understand why the finish is going to rub people the wrong way. So, at first, when this happened, I'm like, okay, not the greatest of starts, but the story they're telling I like. But, yeah, I can see why some people were kind of like, the finish. The match was good, but maybe they could have booked the finish a little better. But that was probably one of the lowest of low points here on the show. And if that's the low point, we're good. So I'm willing to let it go, but we'll see what they do with that. Intriguing. I like that the fact that they kept Kingston strong, though, and Miro, we'll see if they get another match down the line here. Because, Kingston's going to have a bit of a gripe with this. Like, hey, I had you, buddy. And Kingston, and Miro's going to be like, no, you didn't. That sort of thing. But we'll see. But yeah, definitely a good opener to start. But from what I heard, that referee got booed all the way to the back as he was walking.
Oh, yeah. So, people were not okay.
No, they're not okay. But I did like the interplay with it. It's going to take some heat from that for sure. Then we had a brutal match. Jon Moxley versus Satoshi Kojima in a 12-minute banger here. Very strong back and forth.
Shit out of each other. It
was good to see Kojima be featured here on an American pay-per-view.
It was dope.
Absolutely. But
we've seen Kojima a handful of times when we watch New Japan stuff. He's usually in like that big battle royal they have, or like a lot of their old guys. That's where they go. But it always comes down to a lot of their old guys and some young lions, because that's how it works. You keep the veterans in the ring, and they work with the young guys. And, 9 times out of 10, those young guys are taking the job for those old veterans. But there are occasions where those young lions, who want, good prospects, do get that win over those old guys, and it's great.
Oh, yeah.
Kojima is one of those old guys.
Right.
One tough old bastard.
And it's interesting
to see.
Oh yeah. I mean, and the stuff they were throwing in this match, like multiple rapid fire chops. We had forearm strikes. I mean,
stiff forearm strikes.
New Japan style wrestling that is as close to as real as you're going to get in pro wrestling. Like, these guys were taking full on body shots. Moxley got his elbow and forearm all bloodied up in this match at one point. But yeah, I mean, this was just a big, brutal New Japan style. That's a strong style type match. And as Moxley's been doing, and it's interesting to note too, we need to mention here, Moxley also won the GCW World Championship over Matt Cardona over the weekend too, setting up a death match with Nick Gage. We saw Nick Gage during the trials of or the labors of Jericho here on AEW, so we know the brutality that Nick Gage can bring. So Moxley is putting himself through the ringer here. It's like AEW and Tony Khan went up to Moxley and said, "Hey, who do you want to wrestle?" And he said, "Japan. Let me wrestle Japan." And so now Nick Gage is not from Japan, but death style type matches. And then of course we've seen Moxley with the IWGP title, and he dropped it to Lance Archer, who then dropped it to Tanahashi, and I think Tanahashi still has it. They may be setting that up in the future as well, but this match basically come down to, with Kojima, it's more New Japan, strong style stuff. And of course, we're going to be getting a match this week on Dynamite with the man who's about to debut here after this match. Moxley locked in a bulldog choke on Kojima as he reached the rope for a break, though. Kojima caught a kick and hit Mongolian chops on Moxley. Moxley hit a headbutt, avoided the big time lariat, which is Kojima's finisher, and he hit the paradigm shift, and then he hit a second paradigm shift where he lifted him up a little higher and got it more locked in this time for the victory here over over Kojima. But this was a good match. It had some good respect after the match a little bit too, I think. And then, of course, that is when the theme song hit of New Japan legend Minoru Suzuki comes out here. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's just like, oh, my God. And, of course, this is the match we're going to be getting, which I can't believe it's going to be on Dynamite in now 2 days' time when you see this video. I mean, Moxley.
You've seen Minoru Suzuki.
Well, I know.
You've watched Minoru Suzuki.
No, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I just can't believe they're booking it that fast. It's like, no, don't get me wrong. I'm glad they're doing it, and I got no problem with them not waiting. That's fine. But to me, it's like Moxley just went through war here. Nick Gage set up, and he's about to go through more war. And who knows who's going to come out after Suzuki? Maybe we get the Tanahashi stuff. And I mean, there's rumors abound of a lot of these. Yeah, like Kota Ibushi and
I lose my shit.
Yeah, I mean, there's all sorts of stuff that with New Japan that's going to be happening. Now, that forbidden door has obviously been kicked wide open with these companies, with AEW and Impact and things like that. And these companies are working together, which is what the forbidden door means for those who don't know. Unlike WWE, who kind of sticks to themselves. But then again, who's to say WWE one day don't go, you know what? Let's get involved.
It's not like they haven't.
I mean, but Daniel or Bryan Danielson now did reveal later on after the show was over that he was actually offered from WWE to be able to go work in other places because he does want to work in Mexico, New Japan, and things like that. But I guess he just decided he'd rather move on. But it was good to hear Bryan Danielson kind of put over WWE and Adam Cole too, which we'll get into here in a little bit. But this Forbidden Door's wide open, and Suzuki versus Moxley on Dynamite is going to be. I mean, and not only that, in Moxley's hometown of Cincinnati on Dynamite. So that's going to be a barn burner, probably to be the main event of that show. If you've never seen Suzuki wrestle, you're in for a treat, a brutal treat at that. But the old man's crazy. I mean, you heard the expression middle-aged and crazy. This man is the epitome of it. So definitely strap in.
Suzuki's a fucking nut job.
I mean,
I love it.
I mean, they went face to face in the center of the ring to the tune of "holy shit" chants from the crowd. So the crowd knows exactly what they're about to get here. Suzuki took off his jacket and hit a forearm, and this is where they started changing the forearm shots with that New Japan style again. Just brutal stuff. Moxley came back with one of his own. They were smiling and basically laughing at each other. They were enjoying themselves here until Suzuki hit him Moxley with a boot. Suzuki shrugged off a lariat and locked on the rear naked choke, allowing him to hit the Gotch-style pile driver and leave Jon Moxley lying here leading into their matchup here. So obviously, anytime you kind of do a go-home segment, if you're going to call the Dynamite match kind of like their pay-per-view matchup here, Moxley's laying. Many people will feel like Moxley probably wins the match, which would make some sense because AEW, unlike WWE, does not bury their hometown talent. They usually let the hometown guy go over so the crowd leaves happy. So I expect Moxley to win this match.
Depends on the story, though.
It could be, yeah. Who knows where they're going with this? Maybe Moxley doesn't.
This may be a New Japan thing where Moxley loses.
That could be. It just seems like more often than not AEW does that. But again, if the story warrants it, I got no problem with it. But I just feel like AEW doesn't do that thing where every time you're in someone's hometown they lose. That's a common WWE trope. So I expect Moxley to win. But yeah, like you said, who knows here? We'll see what they do. But yeah, big time matchup for Dynamite this week. Don't miss that for sure. AEW Women's World Championship. So right away, 3 boom, 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 big matches to start the show. Really no buffer here. Banger after banger after banger, which we do get a little bit more of the pacing with the buffer stuff a little bit later on. But again, even the buffer stuff wasn't real bad on this show. AEW Women's Champion Britt Baker, Dr. Britt Baker DMD, defends her title against Chris Statlander, who was accompanied by Orange Cassidy on the outside to kind of keep Rebel and Jamie Hayter at a distance. So I kind of like that. Or obviously Orange Cassidy was never going to hit a woman or anything, but just kind of there to kind of like keep the distance between them. So that was good. There were moments of greatness here, interspersed with some really sloppy stuff. But as we said, some of the women in AEW does still need some work, no doubt about that. But as long as they continue to improve, I think it's fine. But this is awesome. Chance we're also in this match as well. But yeah, I mean, to me, it was like, I don't know. The ending for sure was, I like how they did. There was a spot on the outside in the middle of the match where Britt Baker hit a curb stomp off the steps on Statlander. I thought it was a little sloppy. It didn't come off very well. But the ending sequence where Britt Baker did a Panama Sunrise? Yeah, Panama Sunrise. Adam Cole's Canadian Destroyer off the middle rope. She performed that move. That looked perfect. Then she followed that up with a curb stomp inside the ring. That looked good. And then she finished it off with the lockjaw submission to get Chris Statlander to tap out here.
Yeah, this was a back-to-back sequence, which made sense, and the reason why Chris Statlander didn't tap out. She
passed out.
Way out.
Yeah, she passed out. So again, it kept Chris Statlander looking strong in a loss because she took boom, 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 big maneuvers. And of course, again, and then just didn't have anything left at that point. So again, yes, like you said, the babyface way out, the hero's way out, so to speak, and doesn't make her look weak and tapping out. So a good booking keeps Chris Statlander looking good.
Even Cassidy yelled at her, told her to get back.
Oh yeah, and I know JR on commentary even mentioned that's the most he's seen Orange talk in about 2 years. So it's like, and there's one point, he was yelling at her to get back. I mean, it was motivational yelling. It wasn't like
motivational.
Yeah, it wasn't like I'm turning, I hate you, right? Turning on you type thing. But he was yelling at her to get back in the ring, and of course
it was like they were like 8 or 7 or 8 on the count, and like he's yelling at her to get back up.
You got to get in, and she did.
And don't you quit? You get back in there.
Mm-hmm. It was great. It was great storytelling on Orange Cassidy's part for sure. And I don't know where they go with Chris Statlander here necessarily per se, but
nothing. You build her back up.
Yeah, keep working on her.
Hell of a contender.
And again,
keep her strong.
There's just this misconception in pro wrestling circles or sports entertainment or whatever on the internet wrestling community, as it were, as they always have their own opinions. But it's always like, oh well, you jobbed her out to the champion, so wait did you? That's not what they did here. They made her look strong. In a loss, she's going to continue to get over, and if you book it properly, she'll continue to, move up the ranks and stuff. She'll be fine. There's nothing wrong with that. When you beat somebody all the time is a problem. Now, when you have them go against the champion and the champion wins, the champion's just a better competitor at that point. It's fine. You don't have to do that like that all the time. But yes, Chris Statlander was booked well, and she was booked well going into this, booked well coming out of it, and I think she'll continue to be just fine. So no worries there. And we'll see where Britt Baker goes. Obviously, by the end of the show, we got an idea, but I got some thoughts on that when we get to it after the Casino Women's Battle Royal. So we'll get to that. Backstage, we had Andrade El Idolo, and he was with Chavo Guerrero. He was asked if Pac's travel issues were his fault because they played off that fact that Pac having real-life travel issues, not able to get to the show, I think is what's going on. Now, it could all be storyline, but I think it's real-life travel issues due to the pandemic, and he lives in Europe and things like that. But, of course, since they did this storyline here lately with Andrade and his crew kind of obstructing the fact that Penta and Rey Fenix couldn't get to the show 1 week, so they're kind of playing that into the storyline a little bit. Andrade said it was not his fault, though. Pac said, well, it was interesting to know when he said it wasn't his fault, though, Chavo kind of looked over like maybe it was his fault. It was subtle.
Oh, no. Because Andrade looked at him and goes, Did you have something to do with it? Uh-huh. He was asking both of those guys if they had something to do with it. Mm-hmm. And then he said, which made me laugh, was because at the end of it, he goes, something, I'll pay.
Yeah. Travel. I'll pay to make sure you're there on Friday at Rampage. Yeah. So he was definitely to get it. He wants to fight him still. Chavo said Pac wasn't here because he's scared, though, and the same thing happened with the Lucha Brothers before. This Friday, Andrade will take on Pac, and there will be no more excuses. So we're definitely going to be getting that match. A great main event for a Rampage show, no doubt about that. So that'll be a lot of fun, given the proper time. Within an hour show, I bet you they get the last half of this show, as they should. So we'll see what happens there. Then we had, which I thought was the Mikey Ruckus. Apparently that was wrong. Mexican rapper Muelas de Gallo, I think that's how you say his name, performed the Lucha Brothers entrance theme song here to open up this match. Don Callis joined commentary for this as well. And this is, speaking of all-time great pay-per-views, this is an all-time great tag team match, all-time great steel cage match, possibly one of the best tag team steel cage matches of all time, if not the best tag team match.
We haven't seen many. The only one we could go off
that's true.
Was with the Usos versus the New Day, and that was a good match in itself. Mm-hmm. You don't get many steel cage tag matches.
Right.
So, this one, though, was fucking insane.
And I also want to mention, before we get into this match here, we discussed here on the channel about how they were setting up nobody would get involved in a cage because that's what a cage is supposed to be for. Now, I know Brandon had concerns, rightfully so, because every other company we've seen, for the most, not just WWE, I'm sure there's others who, whenever you have a cage match, somebody still gets involved, climbs into the cage.
Somebody still gets in the damn cage.
But AEW,
opens the door,
yes, AEW, to their credit, was telling you on last week's Dynamite, the go-home show, that no matter who was trying to get involved was not going to be able to get in this case. Now, yes, you can still say, somebody could have climbed in, but they didn't go that route here. They stuck they stuck to the stipulation of the cage keeping people out and keeping the competitors in, and I definitely praise AEW for that because that's refreshing to see when that does not happen every day nowadays. More often than not, the cage keeps nobody. Even Hell in a Cell, which has a top on it, doesn't keep people out anymore, and it's ruined the stipulation of the cage in other companies, and it's refreshing to see a cage do its job here, and so definite high marks there. So I'm glad they stuck with that, as I hoped they would. So I'm very proud of that. The Lucha Brothers, though, again, I feel weird just saying they defeated the Young Bucks to win the AEW tag team titles here because, again, go see this match. Go out of your way to see this.
Legitimately, both teams survived this match, and one happened to win the fucking title. This match was crazy, dude.
I wish I was better at going through this move for move, but again, we'd be here for an hour
all night.
But I mean, we had a spot in here where Rey Fenix jumps off the top of this cage, crossbody. Nothing too crazy, thank God. No. They didn't kill themselves with that.
Yeah,
there was a spot. Now the one, if you want to say it was interference, fine. I don't call this interference though. Brandon Cutler threw a bag into the ring at one. Okay, he threw it over the cage into the ring. Cool, but that was it. Nobody else got involved. I mean, the Good Brothers and Callis basically left the ringside area. They weren't even at ringside, so good. But yes, a bag got thrown into the ring that had a shoe in it, and at the bottom of the shoe was a bunch of thumbtacks stuck to the bottom. Nick Jackson I think it was Matt Jackson. One of the Bucks put on the shoe and used it to super kick the Lucha Brothers in the face multiple times. And of course, the Lucha Brothers got the shoe at one point. There was a point in this match the Lucha Brothers were getting so beat up that looks like they had literally nothing left, which, again, played great into the story that they were really playing up the fact that the Young Bucks have been dominant for months. And now, granted, you can argue why they were dominant due to all the outside interference. That's fine. But to the audience, it was like, are these guys ever going to lose? Because they've been winning, regardless of whether you agree with the tactics. The story they were telling is the Young Bucks are almost unbeatable at this point. And there was this point in this match where the Lucha Brothers were completely down and out, knocked silly, where there was no hope left. And then, of course, they started to build momentum again and again. And it seemed, with no hope at this point. So I love the storytelling they were telling there. But then, of course, Lucha Brothers started to battle back. They grabbed this shoe, used it as a weapon with their arms, and they were smacking the Young Bucks in the head with the thumbtack shoe, things like that. So it was just slowly building and building and building and building. And when you finally got to the end here, of course, I mean, God, I can't even describe what I was. There was like, there's Canadian
Destroyer.
Oh, yeah.
From the top rope.
Oh yeah! Oh my God! And it looked like it killed whichever Buck it was. Like he literally bounced off the mat. And his knees bounced up off that. I was like, oh dear God! But yeah, I mean, there were times in this match I thought all four of these men were dead. No doubt about it. But I mean, it's just I can't. Yeah, it was brutal. I mean, and all these guys were a bloody mess.
Canadian Destroyer from the top rope. The dive from the top of the cage was crazy. The finish was even good, where you had Phoenix grab, I can't remember which bucket it is. It's either Matt or Nick, I don't know which one, but he grabs a hold of it, and you could tell he's like holding onto the rope and him at the same time, trying not to let him. The one part where they were ripping the mask off.
Yes, they were trying to rip the Lucha Brothers
mask off. Pentagon is just, there's blood everywhere.
This was shades of Mick Foley back at the Royal Rumble when he was getting chair shots in the face. Obviously, after the match, Penta's family, his young daughter, came up and gave him a hug because she looked terrified.
Standing in the ring, and he's trying to wave somebody into the ring, and nobody knew. So when they get out, his daughter jumps the barricade and just runs, and she's full on in tears,
afraid her daddy's hurt.
Yeah, and he's got a hold of her, and then like I think two more his wife,
his kids, his wife, maybe his sister or something like that. Yeah,
they all come up, but like you could tell his little daughter was so terrified.
Yeah, daddy's hurt.
And like I said, because he has his mask on, obviously, but the white makeup that he had on was
red at this point. Yeah, I mean, these guys they went through a war. I know pro wrestling, they say it's fake or scripted. Not fake, definitely scripted, but this was a brutal, all-out war, and it was shades of the Mick Foley thing because it just reminded me of young Noelle Foley on the outside of the ring screaming bloody murder. Her daddy was taking these chair shots from The Rock back in, 1999, I believe it was, somewhere in there. So this reminded me of that after the match with Penta hugging his little girl, letting her know that he was okay and all that sort of stuff. But kudos to them. Just the match. I mean, there was super kicks. Oh, yes, all around. But the Lucha Bros got theirs in as well.
Dude, when they were standing there and it was forearm. Or no, chop. Chop.
Yeah.
Super kick. Then Phoenix goes down for the super kick. And then Matt's the only one standing. The kip up, super kick, and then it all powdered down. I was like, yeah, that shit was crazy.
I just, if you can't tell with my voice, I have a hard time putting this match into words.
It was dope.
I mean, I needed a cigarette after this match. It was that good. You know, this whole show, I needed a cigarette after it was over. I literally, it took me 2 or 3 hours to come down from the high after the show was over. I mean, I could not go to sleep. That's how good this show was. This match in particular was possibly the best match of the night. I mean, there's a bunch of other really good matches, but this probably takes the cake and possibly match of the year.
For me, would probably match of the
I mean, there's been some good matches on some NXT takeovers and things like that. I know the Walter match at WrestleMania was good. Things like that.
Balor versus Karrion the first time was good.
Yeah, that was good. But this here, whole nother level.
This fucking hell.
This is pro wrestling.
Let's be honest. Cole versus O'Reilly was fucking phenomenal.
Yeah.
But this though, I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, again, I can't put it into words. Go out of your way to watch this show. But this match in particular, I know it's a little, if you're squeamish and you have kids, maybe the blood stuff, maybe too much for you. But when it comes to pro wrestling, this is pro wrestling at its finest. Spot fest. You can again, but it's a Young Bucks match, obviously, with the Lucha Bros. But all things considered, the way they built it with the no interference and all this stuff, definitely one of the best of all time. And I can't rave on this match enough. So definitely go check it out. But the Lucha Brothers, the new AEW World Tag Team Champions here again. So as we discussed too, the cracks in the Elite are starting to show a little bit. However, the Elite got a little bit of a shot in the arm by the end of this night, which we'll get into when we get to it. But the Elite, at least it's nice to see the Young Bucks not carrying the belts again. Now we can get some, Lucha Brothers going up against all these great tag teams. So that's going to be fun to watch as well, because the Lucha Brothers are one of, as of right now, in my opinion, because they're holding the belts, the best tag team in the world. And again, this is just one of those things that AEW does well. Their belts mean something, and the way they built this with the Young Bucks being so beatable for so long, Lucha Brothers are the ones to finally knock them off that perch. And when they did, like I said, I kept telling you for weeks, when they did, the Lucha Brothers, whoever won this match,
I told you,
the crowd was going to go nuts.
Mad at it,
right? I understand the Jungle Express story, though. Yeah, I get that too.
I mean, for me, it's like, but the Lucha Brothers are still my favorite tag team.
Right.
Of course, I want to see them in that situation. Of course, I knew that they would the match would be great. The Bucks versus Lucha Brothers. Of course, I would love to see that.
It definitely makes you forgive.
Storyline wise, it was like.
But at the same time, after this, I'm totally. I mean, I understand the argument, but I totally understand. I'm like, you know what? I don't even care about that now.
You wouldn't have gotten what we got.
No. You wouldn't. I mean, and I'm not saying the Jungle Express wouldn't have been great in this, but this went to that level, which we knew they could do because they did wrestle a couple years ago in a ladder match at All Out, and that was also phenomenal. But this here,
but you wouldn't have got what you got.
No,
you're not going to get a Canadian Destroyer from the top rope.
Yeah,
you're not going to get, maybe you might get one of them to dive off of the top of that cage, but not like Rey Fenix dives off the top of the fucking cage.
Yeah,
the blood spots. Pentagon took a beating.
Yeah, I mean,
like when he took that super kick, there was no hands. The super kick shoe with the thumbtacks, he ate that shoe. Like,
there was a lot of spots in this show where people were definitely eating stuff right in the face. We'll get to Darby Allin here in a little bit, after this, I agree. Jungle Express is going to be great whenever they win the tag titles, and I do believe that is coming one day. It's going to be a while because I think Lucha Brothers are going to hold these for a bit, but I see now, after watching this match, this was the right call. You could argue Jungle Express, narratively, it made a lot more sense, but there's a lot of teams that the Young Bucks screwed over. Let's be honest. It wasn't just Jungle Express. But after watching this...
started with Lucha Brothers, I guess.
Right. And after this, I mean, you could tell that Lucha Brothers are the ones who are ready for this spot. The Jungle Express are going to get there. They still got some work to do, but they're still great. But when they get there, it's going to be better, and they're going to be better by then too. So they're going to continue to improve. But yeah, this is the spot for the Lucha Brothers. This was their time, and I think it was absolutely perfect. So yeah, it's hard to find something wrong with this. So I'm looking forward to seeing where they go. I'm interested to see who's going to challenge them. That's for sure. That'll be fun to see. And let's get the Young Bucks. Maybe they kind of teased by the end of the show. Maybe the Elite could be going up against some of the top baby faces in AEW. So we'll see what they do with that. But yeah, for now, I'm glad to see the tag titles kind of breaking off away from the Elite and starting something fresh. So let's see where they go with it. So next we had what I guess you could call a buffer match to kind of bring the crowd back down a little bit, give them a little. It was a nice longer match, 22 minutes for the Casino Women's Battle Royale here. So it made sense to put that here to kind of, after that big high after the cage match, to kind of build them back up a little bit, getting them ready for the rest of the show. So I like the placement here. Good placement by Tony Khan. No doubt about that. But with that being said, a lot of these, again, the women's division in AEW, they're improving. A lot of these women, I'm very hopeful for their talent, but they definitely have some work to do. That's what the Dark shows are going to be for, and they're going to be doing that, and that's good. Most of these women you do see on Dark and Dark Elevation. That's where they're highlighted the most. But if you're going to fill up 21 women in a battle royale, you're going to have to use some women who are not necessarily completely polished yet. So, but as long as they continue to improve, I think it's fine. We had some former AEW women's champions here, like Riho and Hikaru Shida and things like that as well. But a lot of up-and-comers that a lot of people have never heard of before, too. And when you put them on this big stage to get them some recognition, that's good. So hopefully people will watch Dark and see them, watch their progression here over the next few months and years and things like that. And hopefully some of these women will be able to get to that point, too. The big story of this match, though, outside, of course, we had some good names like Ty Conti and Red Velvet, who just got a match. Jade Cargill looked pretty strong in this match as well, and things like that. But the big thing here is, of course, they come out in suits, the hearts, diamonds, clubs, and spades and all this stuff. But the final entrant in the Battle Royale is the one who draws the Joker card. And the Joker card this year was the return of the former Ruby Riot from WWE, now known as Ruby Soho. She makes her AEW debut here, and she is now all Elite. She has signed a deal with AEW, and she's going to be on their shows. And it comes down to the final three was Nyla Rose, Thunder Rosa, who's also someone who Britt Baker's had some run-ins with in an unsanctioned match, who Thunder Rosa even beat her in that match. But it does not count against the Britt Baker's record because it was unsanctioned. And so it was Thunder Rosa, Nyla Rose, and Ruby Soho were the final three here. They get rid of Nyla Rose, but Soho blocked a pump kick on Thunder Rosa, hit a knee strike. Soho tried to suplex Rosa to the floor. They were both on the outside here as well on the apron, kind of teasing who's going to fall off. And then Rosa went for a Death Valley driver. Soho fought out and sent Rosa into the turnbuckle. And then a Gamenguri is what she hit, I think is what it's called. Followed to eliminate Thunder Rosa as Rosa fell to the mat here. And I'm going to say this too, with Ruby Soho wins this match. When this happened, I understand why you do this, because you don't bring in Ruby Soho to just lose her first match. I get it. At the same time, as long as they follow this up, I'm okay with it. But at first glance, and a lot of people online have come to this criticism, that they brought in an ex-WWE talent or just an outside talent, it doesn't have to be WWE, and you immediately have them win a title opportunity. I get the criticism there. To me, it's about the follow-up. If you just immediately throw Ruby Soho against Britt Baker, I'm going to have a bigger issue with it, because you still need to maybe build up Ruby Soho with some wins before she cashes in this shot. But if you do this in 2 weeks, I'm going to be a little bit more mad about it, because to me, AEW has set that precedent of we're not going to just bring in somebody and they're immediately going to get a title shot. Christian Cage had to earn wins and go undefeated until he got to Kenny Omega, so it made sense. I don't want Ruby Soho night 1, night 2 against Britt Baker. If they build her up over the next month or two, maybe we get Ruby Soho against Britt Baker at Full Gear in November, fine. But if you do this 2 weeks on Dynamite, I'm going to have a bigger problem with it. What do you think?
I don't even think you give it 2 weeks. Like, get in line. I get you want her to make an impact, and she made that impact. Okay,
right.
She won. But there's no time limit on when she can cast that that challenge.
Usually it's pretty quick after these, but again, I don't think there is a time limit. You're right.
You still got Thunder Rosa, who you've already started to build up to be a number one contender here.
I think they're waiting on that one.
Yeah. You can stretch this out. Mm-hmm. Hell, I'd love to see. All right, this is gonna sound fucked up when I say it, but I don't mean it this way. I'd love to see a 3-way between Thunder Rosa.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Soho and Britt. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Which we don't get many of in AEW, and it would be a first for the women's division too. So
yeah, it'd be good. So
okay.
It did appear like Ruby Soho looked a little nervous here. There were a few spots that was a little clunky. Right, and it's a new thing. She was very emotional when she walked out because clearly the crowd knew she was coming.
Like,
I mean, much like any of these other returns, you know, definitely about to cry, but she pulled it together. She went out there, did her job.
Yeah, soaked in, man.
Yeah, and it was good to see. I'm glad she's getting some opportunities and some respect. Again, I don't want to bash on WWE. WWE's doing what I think they feel is best for them. I get it. I'm not trying to do that, but it is nice to see some of these talents who don't get the opportunities like a lot of people feel they should, not just me, to come over here and get put into that light. And so let's hope that AEW uses her properly. I know a lot of people are just like, oh, she's going to jump all the AEW women's division who've been there already, and she's getting a title shot. I get that. But like I said, it's all about the follow-up. If they do that with me, I'll be okay with it. But I think if they're going to continue to do stuff like this with the Casino Battle Royale, maybe you have a return winning it. Maybe you need to make it like the Money in the Bank to where you've got a while to cash it in again so you can continue to build up those wins. But we'll see what they do. But like I said, if they jump right to the title match, I'll give it some criticism, and I promise that I will definitely, hit them for that. But for now, wait and see with AEW, see what they do with it. But I think we're supposed to hear from her on Dynamite this week, so we'll see what happens there.
Hey, listen to me. Keep talking. I got daddy issues.
Okay, all right. I'll move on here. It appeared as if Jericho would get his classic countdown entrance coming up next year, which we'll get Brandon's thoughts on this before this is over with. But we saw the old Chris Jericho Millennium Man, like when he debuted in WWE with the countdown and like the silver medal and stuff like that on the countdown. It looked like Jericho was going to come out here, and of course it counted down like to 3, 2, 1, and then it cut to cut to black. The lights went out, and then we saw this graphic on the screen that said Jericho's last match. So that's when in my head I'm going, oh, this ain't Chris. This is MJF. MJF is the biggest troll in wrestling troll history here. And of course, MJF, I love this because he come out and just basically gave middle fingers to the fans here, talking about how this is all. Of course, everybody bought that this was going to be one of Chris Jericho's, entrances where he kind of does something different. So yeah, this was great. MJF made his way to the ring here and just giving birds to the whole crowd. The thing I love about MJF, I know MJF gets some criticism about not always wrestling in AEW every single week or whatever, things like that. I like how they keep him a little bit of a special attraction because the dude is amazing on the microphone, and when you give him a live mic in his hands, he's absolutely perfect. So I love the promos he cuts. He's never had a bad one, and it's interesting because when you never have a bad promo, as good as all of his promos are amazing, but when you never have a bad one, it's like watching Amazing all the time. It's like it kind of becomes second nature. So when you see an amazing one from MJF, it's like, well, he always does that. So it kind of takes a little bit off of it, but at the same time, he's so good. I love how they do that with him, and he's got a lot of time to go. He's a young guy, which we'll get into here in a minute when we discuss the finish of this match. This is one of the spots in this show where I thought they had a bit of a negative issue. Jericho come out next. It was played out with a live performance from his Fozzy guitarist. I thought maybe Jericho was going to sing himself into the ring because Jericho's band Fozzy is the one who sings his entrance song, Judas. But the fans tried to provide the lyrics here, which is what they wanted him to do. But the guitarist was doing some different riffs and things like that on his guitar, and I think it threw the fans off. So they had a hard time getting into sync when it comes to the lyrics. I think that AEW would have done a much better job if they'd have had Jericho just come out to the music he always comes out to, because the crowd knows the cadence and things like that, which the guitarist did a great job, but I think it just kind of threw the fans off with the sing-along. So unfortunately, it didn't go over the way that it could have gone over. So I think this was the one misstep they had when it come to things like that. So it would have benefited them, I think, if they'd have just stuck with their original interest. But all things considered, and you can kind of see it in Jericho's face a little bit, like, that didn't go the way I thought it would. So he looked a little bit disappointed in this live performance. So hopefully, that's the one negative I had here. So all good over there.
What happened?
Oh no, I was just talking about how MJF come out to Jericho and made it look like it was Jericho's entrance.
fucking hilarious.
Yeah. Nice troll job. Then I talked about the one negative, probably the biggest negative I had on the show was the Jericho entrance. Because the live guitarist threw the crowd off. But again, if they had fixed that, maybe just had it come out to his normal thing, it would have been better. But you could see it in Jericho's face about how this isn't going as well as I thought it would. Not as good as the acapella that happened a few weeks ago without the music at all. That went great. I think they hoped that would happen here, but it didn't go down, unfortunately. But definitely MJF, though, the troll of all trolls. Absolutely great what he did here. Everybody, thought it was Jericho. So this led to the final fight. You didn't miss anything other than that. Chris Jericho versus MJF, 20 minutes. I'm going to say this up front. This to me was different than what they did at SummerSlam with Roman Reigns. We've talked about how Roman Reigns come out the night before SummerSlam, trying to add a little bit extra to the SummerSlam match against Cena, saying, if I can't beat John Cena, I'm going to leave. I think he said SmackDown. I don't know if he said SmackDown or WWE, one of the two. I think he said WWE. To me, when I heard him say that, I'm like, all right, I don't buy you leaving WWE. Jericho, when he said, if I lose this match, I'm never going to wrestle in AEW again, which they ended up changing on the graphic to wrestle again, but he even said on commentary he could still wrestle for New Japan, Mexico, whatever. I actually buy the Jericho thing because Jericho is at that point in his career where I can buy it. He's 50 years old. He's not as spry as he used to be. And in this match, there were times it was a slower match at times because Jericho isn't. I mean, he's still serviceable and good. He's just not the Jericho he once was because at 50 years old, it happens to everybody. But at this point, going into this match, I think if Jericho lost, it left that percentage of believability that if Jericho loses, I could believe it would happen. Roman, I just didn't think it would happen. So there's the difference to that with me. So to me, it just added that extra thing here. So there was always that, and it plays into the match here about halfway through. So I just bought that it's definitely a possibility. But and of course MJF enters this match completely undefeated in AEW. So that right there also played into the storyline that they were telling, and the narrative. It makes you go, something's got to give here. Either MJF's going to lose for the first time, or Jericho's done. So there were stakes in this, regardless of where it was going to be. And AEW has been known to stick to their stipulations. So that's another reason I always thought that Jericho might win, because I know we discussed this. You thought MJF was going to win. I thought Jericho could because I was like, well, Jericho, it's very final. Because if he loses this, Jericho is never wrestling in AEW again. Much like the Cody Rhodes stipulation, he can never challenge for the AEW World Title due to the fact that MJF threw in the towel and all that stuff. AEW's done a good job of sticking to their stipulations, so that's part of the reason why I thought Jericho would win. Well, let's get into this a little bit here. Again, the big story of this, to break it all down, kind of go... MJF, first of all, was wearing these Ric Flair-inspired tights with his initials on it. He even did a Ric Flair strut at one point in this match I thought was really entertaining. But all the way through this, I mean, MJF's ripping up signs, and he's, just... throughout the entire match, shut up, you fat, and all this stuff throughout the ring, all this stuff. He's just playing his heel part here. But it comes down to a point where MJF knocks out Jericho, and he goes for a pinfall. And Jericho is so close to the ropes that Jericho's leg gets on the rope at 2, but referee Aubrey Edwards does not see it, and she counts them at 3 and declares MJF the winner. The crowd absolutely is like, because they know the stakes here, which is, again, what this is all about. And the crowd is like, you got, of course, luckily, another referee was watching and ran down and told Aubrey, because it's a high stakes match, no, his foot was on the rope. So she restarts the match, thankfully. So again, but the crowd and us watching it at home as well. You could. The air got sucked out of this arena. Yeah, this is it, and he's going to get screwed out of this. It's like, oh my God, how could you do that? So, but again, they did it in such a way when they restarted the match. It's like, oh, thank God. It's like, so it was just the way they were doing it. And of course, the match continues, and MJF's livid because it's like, I had him. He's gone, that sort of thing. But of course, then we had Wardlow runs out. Jake Hager cuts him off. They kind of brawl on the outside, and that goes to the back. Luckily, that was kind of all the inner circle stuff there and Pinnacle stuff that really happened. So that's good. We don't need all that. Yeah, we don't need a ton of that. And I think they've heard the criticisms when it's come to that, because they've definitely backed off on a lot of that. So good on them for listening. So that's good. But yeah, as this is going on, though, MJF grabbed Floyd, the bat that Jericho brings down to the ring at all times, which is which our buddy Nate even mentioned. It's always in the corner. It never seems to be put on the outside. Jericho leaves it there, but MJF finds it, and of course he hides it. As the official is being distracted by all this, he hits Jericho with the bat, and then he hits a Judas effect. That's what got to the point with the foot on the rope. So again, he hit Jericho with the Judas effect. So he was going to beat him with his own move, first of all. And then, of course, Jericho gets the foot on the rope, so that leads to that. MJF's music played as he celebrated. The official came out and all that stuff. Then Jericho rolls up MJF for a great near fall after all this as the match gets restarted. So I thought it was over then again, too. But MJF turned it into the Salt of the Earth, which is his Fujiwara armbar, which is, again, on the injured arm of Jericho that they've been playing off for months since the Blood and Guts match where he fell off the cage. So, again, great long-term storytelling with this. I think he did actually injure his arm, but they even played it up even longer to put it into this, so it was great. So again, and Jericho tapped to this just mere weeks ago at the final labor of Jericho when MJF beat him and Jericho begged him for another match. So again, we know Jericho's susceptible to this. So again, great storytelling from a wrestling standpoint. And Jericho rolled MJF over. And looked, again, I thought he was going to pin him right here. But again, MJF pulled out of that and then rolled over again. And Jericho put him into the walls of Jericho. He tried to put him into the old lion tamer where he puts the knee on his head, but I think Jericho kind of lost his balance a little bit, so he went back just into the walls. But after a very long fight here, Jericho sat down deep on these walls of Jericho, and MJF taps out for his first ever loss in AEW. So come on Dynamite, this crowd's going to be chanting to MJF, you tapped out. That they're going to get that whole thing. So again, this was just great long-term booking. This feud has been going on for a year, since September of last year when Jericho and MJF had that initial face-off in the parking lot.
Long enough, though.
Yeah, agree. It's time to end it, and I think this is it. After the match, of course, the Inner Circle with Sammy Guevara, Jake Hager, all the guys come out and give Jericho, Santana Ortiz, they gave him a big hug, and they celebrate with Jericho. So Jericho's career continues. I'm sure he'll take a step back, probably take some time, go Fozzy, do some commentary stuff, wrestle here and there, but it's not going to be completely over. But again, it's time for MJF can take the loss. It's fine. They're not burying MJF with an older talent. That's not what they're doing. You got to remember, MJF won 3-1 here on Jericho. Jericho put him over and over and over. So MJF's going to be just fine. He's got a long career ahead of him. It's no problem here. He loses to a seasoned veteran. This is great. I have no problem with this. What do you think?
No, I thought it was good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did thought, with the foot on the ropes, like everybody else, I'm like, oh shit, he's gonna get screwed out of this. And part of me was kind of like mad about that part, but then also like I get this is your out here for him to say I didn't really lose. But then also I was like, but I don't.
I'm glad they didn't go that route though.
Yeah, because I was like, I really don't want this feud to continue.
And I think it's done. And as we've discussed here, it is time for it to be. I think the I don't even know if the Inner Circle and Pinnacle are really going to be a thing moving forward. You could be, but they've kind of backed off on some of that stuff, which is fine. And they played their part with this whole storyline. And if they move on without it, that's cool. But I'm glad to see this looks like to be the blow off for this whole feud, and both guys move on to something else. And it's just it. But again, I don't think it even really went too long when you look at it in hindsight. Now maybe there for a while you're kind of looking at it going, okay, you could have ended it months ago or whatever. But when you look back on it now as a whole, the storyline from start to finish, it was almost a perfect link. It was a year-long story that they clearly had a plan for from beginning to end. They might have done some, audibles here and there, whatnot, but this is what pro wrestling should be, in my opinion. You start at an end point where you want to go, and you work your way back. You don't start at the beginning, make it up one week, make it up the next week. Oh, well, we don't want to do this now. Let's change. You don't do it that way. It's like when you're writing a movie or a book. You want to have the ending of that story in mind, and you work your way backward. I thought this was great booking, and I don't know. Am I wrong? You think it's the same thing?
No, I mean, it was. I mean, it was great. Because even with the labors of Jericho, they ramped up in difficulty, and you needed something to book in this. So the stipulation, that I'll never wrestle. If you beat me, I'll never wrestle on AEW. That's a big stip. You know what I mean? And I think at this point, this is one of those times where a feud warrants a big stipulation like that. but you got to make that stipulation believable.
Yeah.
And
that's
with
why I
him
bought it.
already losing so many times to MJF and right, his age and all that, like, all that shit comes into play, and it's just like, yo, he could really lose good.
Mm-hmm. And we wouldn't have been shocked if he did, because he is at that stage of career. And you could have easily done that, where Jericho would have been like, all right, I'm ready to retire, or, kind of slow down and just maybe do commentary and Fozzy. And if he were to lose, we'd have been like, all right, it makes some sense. He must be done. And he'd have put over a young talent in doing so, and that's fine. And don't get me wrong, he still put over a young talent in doing this too.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just great. I love how they did this. And I mean, again, like I said, I'm relieved it's over too, or at least I think it better be. I think now that's the best way to do it. You can't top that. Just let it be. But even so, the labors of Jericho, the reason why you could argue one of the reasons MJF beat him was because it was back to back weeks, and then MJF get him on like the 5th week, and he's already been beaten up over these weeks of just hard matches with Nick Gage and Wardlow and all these other big time matchups, and now he had a few weeks of rest and he got MJF, and even then MJF almost got him. So again, just good storytelling all the way around. So A+ here in my opinion. Let's move on to the next thing, which was basically the thing that the show was pretty well booked around. CM Punk returns to his first in-ring action in 7+ years here against Darby Allin. Of course, the crowd was definitely into Darby, definitely into Punk, both fan favorites here in Chicago. But of course, Chicago obviously with CM Punk, obviously mostly. But the atmosphere was insane here. I ain't gonna lie, when this match started, it felt like Punk, I mean, for good reason here. I'm not going to there was somebody in the media scrum after the match who was asking Punk how he felt the match went, and Punk's like, well, how do you think I looked? And the guy's like, well, you looked a little winded. I was like, brother, first of all,
he did, but at the
a
same
little
time,
bit.
He hasn't been in there in 7 years.
Yeah, I'm like, give the guy a break, man. At the same time, it's like, yes, it started off. I mean, they did a lot of slow, methodical stuff, especially early, breaking it in. Kind of course, the crowd was hot, so it's like you didn't have to. Yes, and it's like, okay. And that's fine. You start out slow, but then you work your way up to some faster stuff. And they did. And it was kind of just easing him back in, first match back. Punk will probably get a little bit better. Now, he is older now, so he may not be what he once was too. But I thought for a guy his age, and he's in good shape. Interesting, he was wearing the long tights for this match too, which was an interesting look for him. Didn't look bad, but definitely different compared to what you've seen him before. I mean, I thought he looked fine here. I mean, by the end of it, Darby started to roll a little bit here with some fast, back tackles into the corner, which Punk was taken, by the way. I mean, Darby was, laying it in here. There was even a tope suicida on the outside, which Punk on record was saying weeks prior to this that he was not looking forward to taking that tope. He ate it, and he took it like a champ, and there was even a diving, like, it wasn't a moonsault, but like a rolling dive on the outside, too, off the top that he took as well. So Punk was not shy about mixing it up here. He was taking a lot of shots. There was a lot of good stuff here back and forth. And of course, Punk was hitting some of his, high knees in the corner. He never did really go for the bulldog follow-up, which he used to do. But that's okay too, and I don't think he ever really locked on an Anaconda Vice either, did he? I don't recall. Still there? Huh? All right, I think you muted.
Jesus Christ.
There you go. He muted himself. It's all good. But no, I don't think he ever hit the Anaconda Vice.
I don't think he ever hit the Anaconda Vice. There was some stuff he didn't do that you're used to seeing him do. Mm-hmm. But I think with time, give the man time.
Yeah, and again, Punk will only get more into this once he gets back. I did like after the end of the match, he did jump on the ropes and he goes, "I'm back, mother effers!" Yeah. Really, I thought that was great. So that was fun to see him. He's definitely having the time of his life here, and I'm glad to see him at least happy. So, and you can argue about whether or not you agreed or disagreed how he left WWE or whatever, but at the same time, it's just good to see a talent enjoying what they're doing. So I'm glad with that. Let's see here. Punk waited for a referee's count as Allen was knocked to the outside at one point here. Punk hit the there's another spot earlier in this match I want to get into too, where Punk Irish whipped Darby into the corner, and Darby went through the middle turnbuckle and the top turnbuckle and fell to the outside. That looked like it sucked. But clearly it was a spot that Darby had planned, and he took it as safe as he could have. But yikes! Punk hit a corner knee and a short. Yeah, he hit a corner knee and a short arm clothesline before calling for the GTS. He did hit it once earlier, which again that's one of the things that knocked Punk to the outside here. He hit a GTS. Darby ate that sucker right in the face, didn't get his hands up at all.
Mm-hmm.
And then Darby was so close to the ropes, he literally rolled to the outside on his ass. That looked like it sucked too, but Darby not one to put himself into any danger ever. He easily took this, no problem. But once he got back in the ring, he picked up Allen, but Allen fought out using repeated elbows. Punk rolled to the floor where Allen crushed him with a tope, as we mentioned. Allen hit a flipping senton after that. Allen rolled Punk into the ring and taunted, but Punk sat up to avoid the coffin drop. I thought that was a great spot because he laid there, he lured Darby in, and he sat up like Undertaker when he missed the coffin drop, and Punk was just laughing his ass off like, gotcha. That was great. I loved that. Allen rolled Punk up for 2. And then applied the Last Supper cradle for a great near fall. I thought he had Punk there for a second. Punk had to really kick out to get out of that, so it sold well. Punk popped up and hit a single leg drop kick, which was another great leg drop kick that Punk delivered. Allen hopped up on Punk's shoulders, but Punk readjusted and hit the GTS. And I thought this transition from the jumping up on his shoulders to the GTS position was very smooth. Very good ending here as he hits the GTS to win the match in his hometown. So again, a little slow to start, but you got to expect that from a guy who's been out for a while. Darby was helping him through this, and it just came off fine. There was nothing wrong with it. Good, solid match. What is your opinion on it?
I thought I enjoyed it. Like I said, there was something I could sit here and be like, oh, I mean, no, he hasn't been in the ring in 7 years. He's in there with somebody who's fucking crazy as shit.
But at the same time, he wasn't doing anything worse than Jericho was doing
No.
the match prior. I mean, and Jericho's like, what, 8 years older than Punk? So, I mean, Punk will be fine. I'm not concerned about it. But, yeah, I mean, I thought this was a good homecoming.
One of those, like, give him time. Let him get his feet back under him.
If he's, I mean, even in a few months, even if he's still wrestling at this level, it's going to be fine. It's not something, I mean, you can nitpick it, sure, but again, you got to understand the guy, his age.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I get the criticism if it continues, I suppose.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm not going to, as long as it's good, as long as it's not terrible, I'm not going to hurt on him too much. But we'll see what happens. But yeah, this was a good homecoming for him here. I'm glad to see him get the win. And of course, everybody's going to say again, Punk's beating the young guy. They're not, they're burying Darby. Again, this is not one of those situations. Much like MJF, Darby looked great in this. He took a loss to a guy in his return, but then afterwards they did what mattered. Sting comes out, and with Darby in the middle of the ring, we were kind of like, now granted, Sting's never really been a full-blown heel. He had a little bit of a tweener time there in WCW, but Sting comes out, he shakes Punk's hand. But the thing to me was not so much that he shook Punk's hand, which Punk even said afterwards, that part was not scripted. Sting did that on the spur of the moment, shaking Punk's hand. So I thought that was cool. Sting giving his respect. Now Sting goes to pick up Darby, and Punk goes to help him lift Darby up as well. A part of me thought, Sting ain't going to, Scorpion Death Drop Punk, is he? Never did. Look, he was kind of standing behind Punk a little bit, so I was kind of concerned. Or I thought maybe he would drop Darby. I didn't know. When that is happening really slowly in your head, you're like, as a wrestling fan, you're like, what could happen? But nothing happened. But the thing that did happen, though, that really made the whole thing work to me was Punk extended his hand to Darby Allin for a mutual respect handshake, and he puts over Darby here with that handshake. That handshake makes all the world for Darby Allin. Yes, he loses, but because of that handshake, and he looked good in a loss, again, it's fine to lose. You can still book a loss like this, much like MJF. It's not going to hurt the guy. He's going to be good. He's going to be fine, and it's just good to see. So, do you feel the same way?
Yeah. Like, it was one of those, the handshake means you took me to my limit. Yeah, you lost, but you took me to my limit, And so, yeah, it was good.
And Darby will continue to build off this and get better with a learning experience from a seasoned veteran like CM Punk. So, great all around. After this, we had what was probably the buffer match of buffer matches for the show. But, again, where it was put, it made all the sense in the world. After you come off that tag and you had a buffer, then you come up with the Jericho and Punk and you have a buffer. Bring the crowd back down a little bit. This was quick. It was only 3 minutes, so it did its job. It got in, got out, and it was done. Fine. Good. It did its job. Paul White defeats QT Marshall. QT Marshall here. Marshall. White dispatched the factory members Aaron Solo and Nick Camarado before the match. He hit repeated overhand frying pan chops on QT. Boy, these suck.
Fucking no.
QT fought out and hit a low drop kick to Paul White to knock him off his feet, but White quickly sent QT out of the ring. QT went for a running diamond cutter, but White just pushed him off and hit a massive back body drop. Solo was pulled up to the apron by White and chopped down. White then took out Camarado again with a running crossbody, which is, that must have sucked. The choke slam then followed on QT for the quick pinfall win here. This is basically a quick, big show WWE match. Fine. He got to have another match, which is why one of the reasons he signed with AEW. We're probably going to get this with Mark Henry one of these days as well, which is fine. It was quick. It was short and sweet. It did its job on the pay-per-view card. Not a big problem with it. If this would have been a 15-minute, middle of the show, no out of place, it would have been worse. But where it was, was it necessary? No. We didn't need it, but at the same time, where they put it, it made some logical sense. So outside of that, it was well booked. So good for them on that. Do we need to see it again? Probably not, but we'll probably get. I don't know where they're going to go with the Billy Gunn stuff.
I don't know either.
I don't know if we're going to get that or not.
Weird.
Yeah, it may just have been a way for them to turn heel, and maybe there's no follow up. But you'd think Paul White would want some retribution for that. But we'll see if they follow up on that or not. We'll see. Next up, we had a little bit, again, trying to bring the crowd back down a little bit after the CM Punk stuff. We had some promos here. Jon Moxley cut a promo on Minoru Suzuki, saying them fighting each other is the best drug in the world. He called Suzuki a bully before welcoming him to the jungle in Cincinnati this Wednesday. So, setting up that match, good promo here by Moxley. He's always good. He's still clearly sweating. He must have cut this right after the Kojima match or right out of the shower, something, but definitely a good promo here. Malachi Black also cut a promo, addressed Dustin Rhodes. Black said he wants Dustin to be as angry as possible because that makes him predictable and likely to slip up. Just in case Dustin has calmed down, Black would like to remind him of all the reasons he's mad, including attacking his little brother Cody. So another good, it was a promo. It was there, but setting up their Dynamite match this week. So yes, we've already got 2 matches for Dynamite. Ruby Soho makes her Dynamite appearance, and the Rampage match between Pac and Andrade. So I'm sure we'll get some more Dynamite matches probably announced this week on Dark. So we'll see what happens there, and we'll get some of that. Probably going to be hearing from some of these new talents that we're going to get into here in the main event as well. So that being said, the main event, AEW World Championship, Kenny Omega defending his title in a 22-minute match against Christian Cage with Don Callis at ringside. Before we get into the match itself, Don Callis, I even said something along the lines of, outside of Paul Heyman, to me, Don Callis is the best manager, outside advocate for his champion that there is in wrestling today. Don Callis is doing his job well.
You don't see many of them.
No, you don't. I wish we'd see more of those. Yeah. AEW's got some managers, but Don Callis is
not like this caliber.
No. I mean, Paul Heyman does the thing with Paul Heyman. Whenever Roman's wrestling, just watch Paul Heyman on the outside.
It was the same way where he was with Brock Lesnar.
Yeah.
His facial features.
Yeah. He sells everything.
It's ridiculous.
He gives that element of it being, and Don Callis is not doing that much to the level of Paul Heyman, but when Callis gets involved, it's entertaining as hell. Like at one point, he was fanning Kenny Omega with his pink suit jacket in this match. I mean, it was like
something, buddy.
And he's worn that for a few weeks now.
Shoes.
Yeah, those shoes like the pink toe shit tips on them or whatever they were. Absolutely great. This is I'm not going to say this. I think the Rampage match that Christian and Omega had was better.
Yeah.
But this match was still very good. Not only that, it had to follow everything on this All Out card. Good luck. I mean, just that alone. So I'm not going to kill it.
The ending is
what this is all about. So we'll kind of cut to that. But there's a lot of, kill switch stuff, some V-triggers that Christian was getting nailed with.
That kill switch he was going to do from the second rope, or was it top rope?
Yeah, then I think Kenny ended up
reversing to a fucking one-wing angel.
Yeah, which he ended up winning with the one-winged angel off the second rope, which was, again, nobody, I believe it's still a thing that nobody has kicked out of the one-winged angel in AEW, period, let alone a second rope one-winged angel. That was it. So as soon as that happened, I knew the match was over. So that's how Kenny won. But earlier in the match, there was a spot I did have a little criticism with. The referee's being distracted by Don Callis. That's how they tried to justify this. But Kenny pulls out a table from underneath the rope or underneath the ring, and he lays Christian underneath it. Then he does like a double foot stomp on top of it to break the table. I'm sitting there thinking, okay, the ref was distracted, but then he turns around and then he sees this broken table everywhere. Like, you do nothing about that. But yeah, again, I get what they were trying to do.
They ended up going through a table. And
which they set up in this spot, and then I think
the ref's still like, yeah, that's good. So I don't know how it goes. Like I said, maybe it's if you.
I think what they do
don't
here,
hit him with the table.
Yeah.
But you just put him through the table.
It's one of those things with which I've noticed is in AEW a lot, which again I'm not going to fault them too badly because I think what the idea is, even though the ref sometimes sees this stuff, when it usually happens, it's title match situations or big match situations where I feel like they feel like, well, I'm not going to disqualify the guy because it's a title. Nobody wants to see. Yeah, but at the same time, it's a shoddy reason. It's a bad reason.
Yeah,
but, I agree. But
then again, like, where do you draw the line?
I know, and I agree, and maybe it's something they need to work on.
I think this is with all refs everywhere because
everybody does it. Yeah, they do.
So like, if you put him through the announce table, nobody says anything. But then 2 seconds later, you can put him through a regular table, and it's like, nope, can't let you do that. Like, what do you mean?
Right.
Like, there needs to be this universal guideline for tables. I mean, unless it's an actual tables match or, a TLC situation, then, the rules are as follows for those matches.
Well, like the Malachi thing, putting Cody through a table a few weeks ago where he kicked him off the rope and Cody fell off into the ringside table. That one's like that's like incidental. Like, do you disqualify Malachi for that? I get this one here, though, where Christian drove him through the table. Which, by the way, this table leg comes up through this table, and it looks like it pierced Christian right in the ribs.
Yeah, it looked like it fucking stabbed him. I don't think it did. He got cut for sure, but not bleeding. I know it's a big bruise.
Probably a big bruise today, no doubt about that. And then even Kenny was selling like his lower back was hurting, like he couldn't lift him up a few times in this match off of this spot. So yeah, this looked like it sucked. He might have caught some of that leg as well, but that usually doesn't go that way with these tables. But that thing just shot up through when they went through it, and man, that looked like it sucked because that thing isn't going to give. Yeah, so that notwithstanding, though, this match was pretty decent, all things considered, with the ref stuff and all that. But definitely kill switch stuff, which I don't think he ever did hit the kill switch in this match. Well, he might have once.
No, he went for it.
Maybe he did go for it. I don't know. But anyhow, I don't think he never did. But yeah, there was definitely a bunch of V triggers, which at one point Christian, flipped him off, and you just incensed Kenny Omega to do some more and all that sort of stuff. So again, taking the hero's route, so to speak. Yeah. And Christian was not going to go down without a fight, no doubt about it here. But again, this makes sense for Christian to lose this because we feel like, eventually it's Adam Hangman Page's championship to win off Kenny. And when it happens again, it's going to be much like the Young Bucks situation where the crowd's going to go nuts for Adam Hangman Page when this happens. But he was unable to make this show tonight due to the fact that his wife was ready to give birth to their first child. So Tony Khan said afterward he was always going to give him the time off whenever he asked for it. So they worked around it, and I think they did a good job with it, all things considered. But again, this all led to what happened after the match, and we'll get to Hangman Page probably here in the next few weeks or months. So that's after the match was over. Before we get to the match, Callis entered the ring, and of course we got the one-winged angel off the top, like we said, or the second rope. After the match, the Young Bucks came out. Obviously, luckily, at least in this match, the Young Bucks nobody really got involved in this match too much. I don't believe.
Gallows and Anderson
tried, but they kind of. Who stopped it? Do you remember?
Christian.
Yeah, Christian put a stop to it. So again, it was quick. It wasn't like they really, influenced the finish, so to speak. You know what I mean? So there was that. So that, again, improvement. But after the match, the Young Bucks come out, and that's when the Elite all attacked Christian Cage after this match. Jungle Express ran out, but was quickly overwhelmed by the Elite. We got a lot of yes chants because the crowd kind of had an idea what was coming here, no doubt. But that didn't happen exactly the way they thought, I don't think. Omega.
No, they didn't see this one coming.
No, not like this.
At least not like this.
No, and we'll get into this. Was a great little swerve here. Omega grabbed a microphone and said, "Nobody is on his level," which is usually the sign that somebody's coming. Nobody can touch me. And then that's when somebody comes out, right? The only people that would ever have a chance to beat him are either not here, are retired, or already dead. Great. Now, of course, I got a lot of, oh my God, like from the commentary, especially like, wow, you despicable human being. Again, Great heel work by Omega here, no doubt about that. That's when the lights went completely out. And, of course, then we get, which I don't know if you've heard the theme song for this, but Adam Cole's music hit, the AEW version. It's all about the boom, boom. So this is good. This is actually some good music here. Much better than his last NXT theme music after the Undisputed Era broke up. So Adam Cole made his entrance here. Every single person in the building.
After we talk about what this.
I'll stop. Every single person in this building, though, as he made his entrance, participated in the Adam Cole, baby. I mean, that place was rocking because he was a big acquisition for AEW. Yeah, so we all knew he was coming at some point. And of course, his girlfriend,
Just not as soon.
No, we thought maybe it would take a little longer. Now, I knew that he had no non-compete clause in his contract. I
didn't think it would be this soon.
Well, even Adam Cole said in the scrum afterwards when they did the media questions for him, they said, walk us through everything that happened with this contract thing with the WWE. And he said even he didn't know his contract was up this quick. He said he got a call. He thought he still had 6 months on his contract. He said he got a call saying, no, we need to renegotiate this contract in 3 days. And so they renegotiated, I guess, for a month to finish off the feud with O'Reilly because he said he had a, big time respect for O'Reilly, loves O'Reilly, so he wanted to finish that feud out before he left. So classy move by Adam Cole, no doubt about that. He could have just left, but he did not do that. So good on him for that, being loyal to Triple H, who he loves, and things like that in NXT. So I'm glad he did that. But of course now the talk of why. But not necessarily why. Again, Adam Cole had nothing bad to say about WWE afterwards or anything like that. But when there was a report today that came out that one of the ideas they pitched to Adam Cole was they wanted Adam Cole to be a heel manager on the main roster. To me, what are you thinking? Adam Cole, yes, I get it. He's a smaller guy, and AEW's got that mentality. But Adam Cole is so talented. You do not put this man in a manager role. And if that's the best you could come up with this guy, Adam Cole made the right choice here to get out while he was still on top before WWE had a chance to ruin him. But my opinion, I don't know if you share that opinion. Sounds like it from you're nodding over there.
That's stupid, though. Like,
yeah,
Who the hell was he going to manage?
I don't know. They didn't say that, but that was the idea they pitched to him, and I'm sure he probably liked, no. Not to mention I keep my Twitch going to AEW, but there's that. But yeah, and his fiance or whatever, I got to figure out what their relationship. I know they're dating at least, Britt Baker, but either way, they got a big relationship over there, and of course she's one of his biggest supporters. But yeah, so with this being said, Cole faced off with Omega. This is where you wanted to talk a little bit more about this before we get into actually what happened after that. But yeah, go ahead.
Say what he did.
Okay.
And then
Adam Cole faced off with Omega. So the tease here is Adam Cole's coming in here to face off against the Elite. But if you remember, Adam Cole used to run around with the Young Bucks and Kenny Omega. So he immediately super kicked Jungle Boy, who was laid out on the side there, and was embraced by the Young Bucks. The Young Bucks both kissed him on his cheeks. And, of course, Adam Cole's celebrating here. Apparently, Adam Cole has joined the Elite. Omega said that Cole is one of their best friends. Cole said the Elite is the most dominant faction in the history of this business. Now, there's a lot of people going to say, oh, the NWO. Now, the Elite's getting there. You can argue with their tactics and things like that, but they're definitely portraying them as one of the biggest factions ever, and you can't argue with that, really. So before we get into what happens right after this, though, go ahead.
So we did not pay attention at all to two things. One, his shoes. The same shoes that everybody in the Elite's been wearing. Fucking Nike.
Really? I didn't notice. I still haven't noticed.
They were gold and black.
Well, that kind of suits just his, shirt and stuff. Yeah.
But he also came out of the heel side of the tunnel.
He did. I noticed that later. I was like, I didn't even catch that because I was so consumed with the fact that Adam Cole's here. But yes, all AEW has a babyface tunnel, a good guy tunnel, and a heel tunnel, a bad side tunnel. He came out of the heel tunnel. So that right there should have tipped everybody off. Then there might have been some people who saw it, but I did not at the time.
I wasn't paying attention.
I saw it later when I went back. I'm like, oh, that was a tell right there. But yeah, so good on the AEW for throwing that in there. Which they always put. I know the other night on Rampage after whatever Punk teased about going up the hill, and then he went to the right, and then he went down the babyface. So he teased it. So again, I don't know if they were trying to lay that seed there or not. But either way, good on them for that. But yes, very good catch. I didn't catch that till the replay. I watched a little bit later. So yes. So he immediately turns on Jungle Boy, which again, Adam Cole said in the media scrum. Immediately, somebody asked what his future plans are in AEW. He's like, well, immediately, I think I've got the guy I immediately super kicked. He said something about possibly, and so that right there, again, Jungle.
Probably also why they didn't win those tag titles.
And Jungle Boy gets the victory tonight in the 10-man tag. He gets the pinfall, but it's going to be a great match. But then you can argue, okay, who do you put over? You don't want to beat Jungle Boy, but again, Adam Cole can't lose his first match either if that's the first match they go. But again, it's going to be a great match regardless of the finish. And again, if you do it right, it's not going to hurt.
I don't think you give it to him right off the bat. I think you give him to somebody else.
Who? Adam Cole?
Adam Cole.
You don't give him to Jungle Boy right away or after Jungle Boy?
No, right. Don't give him to Jungle Boy right away.
Well, it sounds like that's where they're going. Well, we'll see what they do. But that's what he mentioned. But we'll see if they actually follow through with that. But yeah, it sounds like after where this is going, which I'll get into in a minute. Omega was about to bid the crowd goodbye and goodnight with the finger point.
And adieu.
And adieu. That's when the light. The lights didn't go off. The music just hit. Flight of the Valkyrie, which we kind of wondered if he would use the final countdown from his days in Ring of Honor and things like that. But no, we got Daniel Bryan, a.k.a. now known as Bryan Danielson. He emerged from the babyface tunnel. So that was another sign there. The crowd exploded. And it starts out with Flight of the Valkyrie, but then it kind of goes into this more of a beat with the more lyrics and stuff into it. So it was
it's still Flight of the Valkyrie though.
It starts out, but then I guess it kind of a little bit into it, but it's mostly in the beginning.
It has like this bass line to it. It's pretty dope.
Yeah, it's actually pretty dope. They did a good job of meshing the two here. He stood side by side with Christian and Jungle Express once he got down to the ring, leading to an all-out brawl between these babyfaces and the Elite. Danielson laid in some yes kicks in the corner on Nick Jackson, which, by the way, he was laying these in.
Kicked the shit
Nick Jackson.
And kudos to Nick for eating them.
Selling like a champ. Oh God, this was incredible. Followed by a running knee strike on somebody. It might have been Nick.
No, it was Nick.
Was it Nick? Okay. So yeah, he laid him out with his finisher here. Danielson and company posed in the ring while the Elite licked their wounds on the stage to end this show. This crowd was going berserk for every single bit of this. This to me looks like they may be leading toward like Christian, Jungle Express, and Bryan Danielson against the Elite. You could do a 10-man tag at like their New York show Grand Slam, or
bodies,
maybe. But either way, this is going to. That sounds like some, the baby faces going against the old New World Order, or kind of like some of the classic. The Elite are a problem. We've got to deal with them. These baby faces need to come together. Maybe they do that. I don't know. Maybe they split these off into singles, like I said, Jungle Boy. But if you do it in a tag first, maybe Adam Cole, and then maybe you can figure out Jungle Boy and Adam Cole later. I don't know. We'll see where they go. But yeah, this was absolutely great. And again, Bryan Danielson after the show did a media scrum as well. Again, nothing but good things to say about WWE. For all you WWE fans out there, they weren't hating on the company for leaving. He even mentioned that his wife Brie Bella has some business dealings still with WWE and is involved with them. So again, nothing wrong with that there. But he did mention a fact that I thought was very interesting. He said that Vince McMahon, while he loves Vince, he also is very overprotective of Daniel Bryan, or Bryan Danielson, I guess. I need to get used to calling him that. Even Tony Khan accidentally called Ruby Soho Ruby Riot in a scrum as well. So he said he'll never do that again. So it's going to happen. But Bryan Danielson said that Vince McMahon is overprotective of him. Part of that, see, that's the thing. He said that, and he's like, but he wants to be able to wrestle without any restrictions. That was one of the reasons he left WWE, and he knew that he could do it in a safe environment in AEW still, but also take the reins off of him because they didn't want him to do certain things because of his previous injuries. That I understand that in WWE's case, they didn't want him, but at the same time, that's the PR answer. WWE also doesn't want Daniel over. I
don't know.
He got over the first time.
The first time, yes, fine. So be
but
it.
Since then, what have they done with the guy?
After he after he got hurt, that was like a real injury type situation. That was like a real Edge type injury situation. Yeah. When Bryan got hurt again, that was.
But who's over now and in the main event scene? Edge is. Daniel Bryan was not.
What do you mean?
Edge is in the main event scene after a big event like that too, and Daniel Bryan when he came back, they didn't put him in all that. Now, granted, Daniel Bryan was in the main event, I guess, at Mania.
Yeah.
So. But regardless, I guess he felt that they were restricting him. That's the point. But
and he didn't want that. Now, look, we can all be happy, whatever. But if he comes now 2 months down the road,
Yeah, let's hope
and
not.
gets hurt again, then what?
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I see both sides of the argument. That's all I'm saying. But yeah, I mean, I'm glad that he's getting an opportunity to do what he loves to do and to do it the way he wants to do it. That's great. But yeah, I also see it from WC side of things. You don't want a guy to get injured or killed in the ring as well. I get that too. But there's also going to be that side of things that people are going to feel like, well, they were holding him back. Because it's very well documented when that happened that obviously they didn't want him over in that main event WrestleMania when he got the Yes Movement going. But yeah, maybe you could argue since then it's different. Maybe you could.
He came a long way from that moment to where he was up until he got hurt, and then after he got hurt, yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely a possibility. But yeah, I mean, I see both sides of that, but I just thought that was interesting to throw out there. But yeah, I'm glad to see he's getting a chance to do what he loves to do here with the All Elite Wrestling. We'll see what kind of feuds he's got. Now, again, this is one of those situations. I don't think they're going to throw Bryan Danielson against Kenny Omega right away.
No.
They're not going to do that. I know everybody's going to be like, oh, he's going to jump it. No. They're going to do, if anything, with him like they did with Christian. Well, yeah, I think Omega Bryan Danielson is definitely a match they will do. Whether it's for the title, I don't know because of what happens with Adam Hangman Page. We'll see. But it definitely against him and Omega is going to happen at some point. But again, it's going to take him some time.
I hope it's not soon.
I mean, if it's for the title before they give it to Hangman, that's fine. But again, you don't want to be Daniel Bryan against Kenny. So I think it's probably after Kenny loses the belt. That's my assumption. But we'll see. And it'll just be kind of maybe like that Bryan Danielson against the Elite situation.
Yeah,
we'll see.
That's what's gonna happen. Is now he'll just start running through everybody in the Elite, or going up against everybody in the Elite.
Maybe you team up like Bryan Danielson and Christian against the Young Bucks. You could do that. Again, and then you have Kenny against Hangman, and then Jungle Boy against Adam Cole. I mean, you could always do all that. There's a lot you could do. But I mean, the thing about this is, and I get the criticism. AEW is bringing in all these ex-WWE or just too many talent. That whole thing. But again, if used properly, just think of some of these matches you can do with Cole, Bryan, Omega, the Young Bucks, Jungle Boy, Darby, CM Punk. They have got potentially the best all-around roster since the 1997 days in WCW.
Yeah.
If used properly. That's the key. WCW didn't use their guys properly. A lot of it was burying them with Hulk Hogan, things like that. But again, it depends.
I get the criticism here, they're bringing in all these. And then... But you also got to understand, too, from the flip side of that coin, you're like, but these guys were stars elsewhere.
Or some people would argue they weren't, but yeah.
Because they might have been big in, ROH and stuff like that, but nobody knew who the fuck ROH was. You know what I mean? So, of course, he had a cult following there, but let's be honest, going to WWE...
It did make him a bigger star, yeah.
Yes.
And that's what a lot of people's criticism is about a lot of these guys. But I wouldn't necessarily say all of them, but,
Not all of them.
No.
But, the majority of them, sure. Not all. There are a couple guys who made it so big on the indies that it was kind of hard to ignore them even once they got to, a WWE or an ROH. And there are some guys who may be huge in, an indie circuit, but then make it here and they're like, yeah, who the fuck are you? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a toss up here, but it's not like they're getting like WWE's leftovers.
No, this whole argument is ridiculous.
So it's like,
yeah, I mean,
a lot of these guys still got a lot of miles on them.
Yes, it's like saying, okay, let's say in Major League Baseball, if a team cuts a lot of all-stars and you complain they go to another team, it's like, well, they would be stupid not to pick up these all-stars. Yeah. I mean, it's like, come on. I mean, look, I understand the criticism is here that AEW picks up all these ex-WWE talents. Like WWE don't do it, first of all. Yeah. I mean, AEW got AJ Styles from Impact, first of all. Let's not to mention a lot of other guys. They probably got a good 20 guys who come from other companies. This is something that happens in wrestling. It's not. It goes both ways.
The nebulous of wrestling. Name one wrestler who's been in one place the whole fucking time.
You could maybe argue Roman Reigns.
Well, yeah, but that's only because he literally just came up in there.
But one day Roman may go to another company too, and then what? I mean, most guys are not homegrown. It's just it doesn't exist in pro wrestling.
Yeah, Because
Not really.
The thing with Roman too, you got to think about it this way: he played football, and then he had the whole thing with leukemia. Wrestling was never something he wanted to do. It was something that at the time was a means to an end because he had nothing else to do. You know, and like I watched the documentary. It was like one of the things. It was like, I guess I'll do this now. Like,
yeah. Well, and not only that, I mean, what happens again with an ever-growing roster in AEW?
Yeah.
At some point, if not all these guys, if they don't have room for all these guys, one of these days, AEW is going to start cutting talent at times. It's just an inevitability. Are these same critics right now who are judging AEW for this, are they going to be just as pissed off when WWE signs ex-AEW talent? Is that, I mean, or are you going to be like, no, they're not homegrown? I mean, come on. If they're good talent out there, I don't begrudge WWE. If they want to go to WWE, let them. That's fine. But you got to know what you're getting into with WWE right now in the current state they're in. But again, that's up to the talent and that's up to the company. This whole argument is just absolutely absurd to me. It's like the argument I heard this weekend. Well, AEW just blew their entire load in one show by bringing in Ruby, Adam Cole and Bryan Danielson. Well, first of all, no, they haven't. They still got Bray Wyatt, possibly. So that's number one. Number two, you mean to tell me they did the exact same thing that SummerSlam did with Becky Lynch and Brock Lesnar in one night? So stop it, okay? This whole just... If you don't like AEW, don't, like Punk said, if you're an AEW hater who just hates watch it and has nothing positive to say to the conversation, shut the fuck up. That's what he said, flat out.
So like,
same thing with WWE.
For me, like one of the guys I know, he posted this picture. It was of Randy, from South Park.
Let me guess.
I'm talking about.
All over the place. Yeah, we know the meme.
All it said was ignoring all the bullshit and just appreciating all of wrestling.
Just love it, dude. It's like Marvel versus DC. We've seen this for years. Star Wars versus Star Trek. Just like what you like. Look, I criticize WWE on this show. I do. But here's the difference between me and people who just hate watch AEW or hate watch WWE, because there are those out there for WWE too. Okay, God, yes. Let's be. There's AEW loyalists and WWE loyalists. Both sides have them. But if WWE does something good, I'm going to praise it. If AEW does something good, I'm going to praise it. But if they both do something stupid, I'm going to say that too. Okay, I was fully prepared tonight to come on this show and say AEW screwed up badly if they got people involved in that steel cage match. Yeah, I said that. You can go back and look.
I was about to be so mad.
And I would have been too. But again, they didn't do it, so I'm going to praise it. So, and I thought SmackDown this last week, the Roman Reigns stuff was really good, and we'll get into that this week on the show. So check out that on Thursday morning. But this hatred for the sake of hatred, in all aspects, not just pro wrestling, real politics, anything, it's got to stop.
It's getting out of hand.
It's ridiculous, and it's going to be the end of all of us if we don't stop.
You can't enjoy any fucking thing anymore.
No.
And like I said, if you like it, cool. If you don't, cool. Like at the end of the day, it's somebody's entertainment.
That's why I try not to hate the AE or WWE all the time. Now, I want to criticize stuff I think is with crap, and I've done some rants. You can go back and watch.
Opinion shit too.
Yeah, and it is.
All right, for me, it's not for me. But if you like it.
And there's going to be some people who didn't. And it was funny. Last night, a lot of the AEW critics were pretty quiet, but there were some out there still trying to poke. And again, it was very weak arguments, back and forth between some fans. But again, and like I said, I'm not going to say WWE fans are the only ones who do it. AEW fans are just as guilty. They got to stop too. Okay, and I love AEW as much as anybody right now. I'm a big fan of theirs, and I want to be a big fan of WWE. I want to watch all these shows and be happy with every company. I really do. It's just right now WWE pay-per-views are good for the most part, but their build-up on stories a lot of times are weird.
That's where it loses you.
Yeah, and the storytelling is not the greatest. But even so, I'm going to say some good stuff. Like I watched part of Raw tonight. We'll get into it on the show. But the first hour had some good tag team wrestling on it, so that is good. But we'll get into it. But yeah, just this whole hatred stuff again. I'm sorry I went on a rant there about SummerSlam and stuff, but again, if you're going to criticize one, you can't do that and be like, oh, well, it's okay for the other. If AEW cuts guys later and WWE signs them, I can't wait to hear those people being, well, they're getting AEW rejects. It's like, come on, guys. This happens, man.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's our soapbox for the evening. But all things considered, this ending of the show was absolutely fantastic.
It was.
Bryan Danielson and Adam Cole are now all elite. And the matches they can have with these young talents. And Adam Cole is still a young talent, okay? He's not
I will say this.
Yeah.
In that little excerpt that I read about Daniel Bryan, he goes, when CM Punk said he would come in, he said he wanted to, come in and work with all these young guys and do all this stuff. He goes, not me. I want to fucking kick. He said, I
Yeah.
want to kick their fucking faces
Yeah,
in or some shit.
yeah,
I
totally
was
different.
dying. I was like, yo.
Great story element there, yeah. But and not only that, I loved on Dark. They did a Dark which we didn't get a chance to talk about, but there was a Dark where CM Punk on before All Out on Saturday, I guess, was out in the ring with Luchasaurus and Jungle Express and Jungle Boy, and he's like, one of these days we're going to fight. He looked at Luchasaurus and said, I don't want to fight you, and then he looked over at Jungle Express. He goes, but you. I'm gonna kick your ass one day. So it was just funny. He's like, I'm scared of the big man, but I'm gonna beat Lucha. So yeah, it was great. And then of course he sang, the Golden Girls theme song, and Jungle Boy didn't know the words because he's too young to remember the Golden Girls, and it was just some good fun. But yeah, so again, AEW, you don't have to love them, you don't have to like them, but
Same thing goes for
right,
WWE.
Same thing, but to deny. To sit there and say what AEW is doing is not good for the business or good storytelling and booking is just not accurate. What they are doing is good for all involved. Good for the talent. The talent love working there, it seems like, because they treat them with respect. They listen to their ideas. They listen to the fans, which is what pro wrestling should be about. I know the other company says they're sports entertainment, but they're still pro wrestling, whether they want to say they are or not. That's just my point on it.
The moment they became an openly traded company is when
it did kind of hurt them. But even their Fox and NBC and Universal are not thrilled with them right now because they promised them higher ratings and things like that. And
then you got to stop trying to program it for them too.
Yeah, that's the thing. They demand stuff, and you expect a better product. When if you demanded them, say, "Oh well, you guys got Roman, why can't we?" It's like you can't please everybody. You've got to either do a good pro wrestling program. And that's part of their problem. They're trying to appease too many people, and not only that, least of which is Vince McMahon himself, which is a problem. When everybody just says, "Sure, boss," you got to push back on him a little bit. And I'm sure people were pushing back on Tony Khan, and that's part of why this works. Tony Khan's willing to listen. He's willing to adjust, and that's what you should be. So to say AEW is doing things wrong, that's inaccurate. And now, but I also said last week, with WWE, changing NXT. To say what they're doing is wrong in their eyes, it's necessarily not, because NXT does have the weakest ratings of the three shows. So in their eyes, they probably feel like changing NXT to be more like Raw and SmackDown is the right move. Now, to us more pro wrestling fans, like that type of style of shows, we feel like it's a bad thing, and we're probably going to say some negative things about that because of the way we feel. But in their eyes, they're doing the right thing by them. So you got to see it from their eyes, and I hate it for Triple H because it sounds like he's kind of not got as much say as he used to. But we'll see how that goes. I'm not judging NXT just yet because we haven't seen what they're doing. But from the reports of things, we're probably not going to be big fans of it here on the show. But we'll be fair with it, just like everything else, and we'll praise it when it's good, and we'll say it's not when it's not. But with that being said, I guess we're going to end this show. But that was All Out again. One of the best pay-per-views I've seen in probably 10 or 15 years, if not ever, maybe a top 10 pay-per-view of all time.
For sure.
To me, definitely the best pay-per-view AEW's ever done.
Top 10 for sure. Because we've seen, I just can't say it's my number because we've seen some banger ass pay-per-views.
There's a lot of pay-per-views over the years.
We've seen some banger ass pay-per-views. So
I've seen people putting it up there with WrestleMania X7, 17. I know it was a good show. There's some SummerSlam 2002 was a good one. Some WCW ones.
Takeover Brooklyn was
some takeovers have been great. It's more along the takeover style.
Takeover Chicago was fucking killer.
Yeah, there's a lot of good. I mean, some of the Four Horsewomen matches, and the Adam Cole stuff that he did in NXT, which we're going to be getting in AEW now, which is going to be awesome. Some of that talent he can have feuds with over there is going to be great. But yeah, definitely. Again, would you want to say it's the best of all time? I still think personally it's probably the best all around pay-per-view top to bottom that AEW has ever done. Now there's some matches. There's probably been some better matches on AEW. Like I think Kenny and Omega was a lot of fun. Or Kenny Omega and Moxley, I should say. They did so they've had some good stuff too. But top to bottom, it's probably booked the best show they've ever done. So
best, I will give you that. I will say it's probably one of the best, if not the best, AEW pay per view from top to bottom. Besides the first one was good too. Even though the ending was fucked up because they had to cut it short, like the camera cut. You know what I mean? Because they ran out of time.
Yeah.
But If that's
it's a nitpick, you know. And I want to say one more thing, since we were kind of going off about WWE a little bit too, not to go too long on it, but for those of you people saying AEW botches a lot, every company does. I mean, I watched Raw tonight. There was some going on tonight. I mean, just stop, okay? I mean, every company has mistakes. You're not going to find a perfect. I mean, yes, there's going to be really good matches like there were here tonight on the All Out show. But again, but even All Out had a few botches, especially in some of the women's stuff. It's going to happen, okay? It's pro wrestling. It's
Kenny
not.
Slipped on the damn thing.
Yeah. Kenny slipped on the moonsault on the barricade, and he actually kind of even overdid himself. He did a spinning one to kind of top it. So he's like, "Oh yeah, I know I slipped, but guess what? I'm going to top it." So
because it was funny. He went,
shush. Don't say a word. So at least he knew it, and he tried to do. Yeah. So again, it happens, man. It's all in how you deal with it, you know. And I get it, you know. But this hate stuff is just, again, got to stop. But anyway, I'll stop rambling now, and we'll get out of here. But that was All Out. Definitely go check it out. One of the greatest of all time, no doubt about it, in my opinion. I'm so glad.
If nothing else, watch that damn cage match.
Yeah, cage match especially. Punk is great to watch to see his return as well. And a lot of good moments, a lot of highs. The crowd was happy. Wrestling fans in general are just happy to see something exciting in pro wrestling for a change. So let's hope and pray that WWE steps their game up. That's what we want. We want to see WWE be better. That's it. And I think everybody can tend to agree with that. Good pro wrestling is good for all involved. So with that being said, let's get out of here. If you're finding this for the very first time, please hit that like and subscribe button. And don't forget to hit the notification bell so you get all the notifications about when we put up new content right here on this channel, including our pro wrestling recap show. This week we'll be going over SmackDown, Raw, NXT, the final NXT before the changeover, and of course Dynamite will be dropping here on Thursday morning, so come back for that. And until our next video, guys, take care.
We about to turn it on.